In a world where people are born with incredible superpowers, you were born with an aura that makes you seem immeasurably powerful, though you have no other power to back it up. How did you do it? Answer me, you fraud. Dr. Ned Growers, better known as Toxical, leaned back in his chair and met my accusations with the coolest of stares. I knew that I was trespassing, that he could have me thrown out of his office at any moment, but I didn't care. Righteous rage is a potent drug, and I was so furious that nothing else mattered. You're a cheat, that's what you are, I said. It's all a sham, and mark my words, truth will see the light of day eventually. I will have every single reader of '09 know that you are nothing more than a cheap illusion. I thumped his table so violently that his nameplate tottered off onto the ground. He picked it up, then fussed over restoring it to its original position. Director of Research, it read, with no other embellishment, no other indication that he was anything other than an egghead with the League. Nothing to state, for example, that he was one of the very few with a threat level so high, governments had to develop a whole new category for him. Not just Tier A, or Tier AA, or even Tier AAA. He was Tier S, the only one in the entire United States of America. Except that I knew he wasn't. I don't know what you are talking about, Wisp, he said, using my professional name. You were there at the showdown too, were you not? You saw me descend into battle with Earthshaker, and you saw how I emerged victorious. And if you're not going to believe your own eyes, what do you want me to say? I can only hope your readers at over 9,000 are more discerning than you are. That's exactly what I meant. I know it's all a lie, I just don't know how you did it. Did what? He said, the ghost of a grin spreading across his lips. I fished about in my satchel, then dumped an assortment of glossies, audio tapes, and handwritten notes across his desk. They sprayed out dramatically, and Toxical began poking at some of them with the end of his pen. I told you before the showdown, I said. I've been watching you from the shadows for over a year. The proof is right here. You're ordinary. Here's a picture of you stumbling during your morning run and scraping your knee. Here's another of you having trouble opening a jar of mayo. And what about this one? I flailed the photograph in front of him. Remember this? When you put out the trash and a stray cat popped out from behind the bins. You let it chase you for 2 whole blocks. Toxical's face lightened visibly as the memory came back. It was a very ferocious tabby, he offered. That's my point. You don't have powers. In 100 instances, you've either gone out of your way to avoid trouble, or to resolve it through other means, but never once have you ever flexed your superpowers. Did you know, I went through every single available public record, but there's not a single documented case of you using your superpowers? I'm not showy, he said, as he shrugged. Don't see why everything's got to be a measuring contest. So how? I asked. How did you fool all the threat assessment tests? Why are you Tier S? Toxical motioned for me to take a seat, and I did. I felt winded after my outburst, and frankly, I was ready to give up on the story. I had invested too much of myself into this, and much as the injustice of it all weighed upon me, I was far too weary to go on living in this madness. Shall we discuss in hypotheticals? He said. Off the record? I nodded, and he leaned over and tugged at the hidden microphone I had placed behind the visitor's badge on my shirt. I was too defeated to protest, and I just watched as he crushed the device with his stapler. Suppose a boy grows up on the streets, he said. And suppose the boy realizes that he actually doesn't have any superpowers. Or at least, none of the sort which everyone else seemed to be growing in. He can't manipulate fire, he can't weave ice, he can't teleport, he can't fly. Yet, everyone else keeps their distance from him, fearful somehow of the danger he presents. That boy then has 2 main paths open to him, Toxical continued, as he held up 2 fingers. 1, dally away his time, and live in the moment. Embrace the fame, and feed off the fear and respect everyone accords him. But he knows that such unearned glory is short-lived, and no matter how great his legend, there will always be someone just crazy enough to challenge him, to see for themselves if he was really as big of a threat as he seemed. And above all, this boy is a survivor, and this grisly end does not appeal to him, because he knows he will definitely lose if ever there is a real fight. What's the other option? I found myself asking. The second option, as it were, was to really become a threat. To be as big and as deadly a stick as he appears to be, so that if ever he were really challenged, then he would be able to fend for himself, prove that it wasn't worth anyone's time to tangle with him. But, I said, grasping for the words. You have no powers, nothing at all. And you live among people who can warp time, bend reality. Toxical answered by pressing the quick deal on his phone, and mumbling into the receiver. Within seconds, a sharp knock rapped on the door, and Earthshaker strode on in. You called, boss? I must have started gurgling by then, because it was a while before I formed a coherent sentence. That's. Why is Earthshaker? What? How? It helps sate the public bloodthirst, I would say. Every few months there's a big public beatdown, and I get a couple of weeks apiece as people find more productive ways to waste their time. Toxical dismissed Earthshaker, and he left after shooting us a quizzical look. Toxical waited until I'd stopped hyperventilating before he continued. In a world where everyone has superpowers, and is so focused on developing them, it seems that few ever bother to pursue other forms of influence, Toxical said. And such a boy, that hypothetical powerless boy, may then find that since there is no need for him to train and develop his powers, he has a lot more time on his hands. Time which, if applied well, could grant him other forms of power, as it were. So you admit it then? I asked. That you don't have any superpowers? Toxical laughed, then tapped on his nameplate. As director of research, I have access to every record of every superpowered individual to be registered with the League. I know their strengths, their weaknesses, their schedules, their proclivities. You name it, and I have it. At any moment, on any day, I have scores of agents working to catalog the world, fit everyone into boxes. And through it all, everyone comes back to me, because I have learned to contribute in ways that others cannot. Toxical leaned in, and I followed suit, subconsciously mirroring him. I know, for instance, the 3 chemicals you are susceptible to, he whispered. Which, if applied to you, would rob you of your ability to teleport. You would not be so much wisp as you would be a preserved butterfly, pinned and trapped in my collection. Toxical stood, then ushered me to the door. His hand, on my back, was so cold that I couldn't help but shiver. I may not be deserving of my threat level, young man, but trust me, I have worked bloody hard to live up to it. So feel free to print whatever you want, I look forward to refuting it.